Welcome to Sangaree Middle School and the meeting of the Berkeley County Board of Education for Tuesday, September 10th, 2013. I'd like to call the meeting to order, declare that a quorum is present, and that the media has been notified. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda as well as a second?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Obie has made a motion to approve the agenda. Dr. Etheridge has seconded that motion. All those in favor of approving tonight's agenda, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. The ayes have it. The agenda is approved for this evening. Agenda item number 3 is next. We're going to have a little different format tonight for tonight's prayer and Pledge of Allegiance. We'll start with the prayer, and then we'll be joined by some of our Sangaree students. So if I may have the point of privilege, following the prayer, I'd like to recognize our students prior to stating the Pledge of Allegiance. So with that said, would you please join me for tonight's Lord's Prayer? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. For tonight's Pledge of Allegiance, I am very proud to welcome from the Sangaree Middle School Beta Club. These students are distinguished academically. They have also been chosen for their leadership skills. President, Miss Lexi Mook, Vice President Jacob Sturdivant, Secretary Taylor McNeely, Treasurer Malik Smith. We are very proud of the Pledge of Allegiance in Berkeley County School District. And students, we would like for you to lead us. Thank you for being here tonight. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. You may be seated. Thank you, students, for participating this evening. A very special thank you to Principal Sissy Day for hosting the school board this evening, as well as your faculty, staff, and your parent organizations. Hear, hear to Sangaree Middle School. Very proud of you. Thank you, Mr. White. And the superintendent has reminded me, if you would like to move back to the seating to be more comfortable, you may do so. And that way the spotlight will only be on us. Thank you again, students. Outstanding. Moving on to agenda number 5, approval of the minutes of August 27th, 2013. Do I have a motion and a second for the approval of the minutes from August 27th?
So moved, Mr. Chair. Second.
Thank you. Mr. Wright has made the motion to approve the minutes of August 27th. That motion has received a second from Mr. Marino. All those in favor of approving the minutes of August 27th, please indicate by saying aye. 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 The minutes have been approved. Moving on to agenda item number 6, citizen comments. If I could please read the procedures to remind everyone for the purpose of the citizen comments. In order to conduct the meeting in an orderly and efficient manner, we ask that you honor the following guidelines. Stakeholder comments are welcomed and encouraged. However, the board will not take immediate action on public comments at this meeting. Any person wishing to address the board must register prior to the meeting. Comments must be regarding programs, policies, or procedures. Comments regarding an employee or student other than the child of the speaker will not be heard in public session. Groups addressing the same topic should select one speaker. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. The board chair reserves the right to allot additional time or halt public comments that do not adhere to the guidelines. In addition, as board chairman, I would like to take this opportunity to briefly address the issue of the limitations on public comments set forth on the citizen comments card. As many of you are aware, there is litigation challenging the limitations on the card and in the district's administrative rule relating to public comment at board meetings concerning district employees, including the ongoing SLED investigation of district employees. While I continue to ask that all citizens respect the board's policy and honor the limitations on the speaker forum, in light of the pending litigation and for the reasons I stated at the June 25th, 2013 board meeting, I do not intend to interrupt the speaker who does not abide by this request. Tonight's first citizen comments come from a very important individual in Berkeley County, Miss Marietta Hicks. Miss Hicks, if you would please approach the podium. For those of you who may not be aware, Miss Hicks is a tireless volunteer. She is in charge of leading the Roscoe Reading Program. And I also see a member of your board of directors there, Miss Hicks, Miss Donna Marino, who served this board very well for many years. So thank you and welcome, Miss Hicks. The microphone is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Thompson, and members of the board. I wanted to make sure that everybody received the email that I sent to Dr. Thompson yesterday, and it was an information only. At the beginning of the school year, we stated we were going to be in 16 schools, and due to some of the three of the schools have decided, or due to lack of funding or whatever, for whatever reason, have decided not to do AR this year, and we are AR based. And so I wanted to report that to the school district to let you know that we're very open. We don't have anything to hide, but I know there are some teachers that are very heartbroken, and in fact, one is praying right now that I don't mess up in front of y'all, that she's very heartbroken because without the AR, Roscoe is not there, and we do need ARs for measurements, and it's just accountability. So I will be happy to answer any questions you may have, but that was an information-only email, and if you did not receive it, let me know, and I can personally mail a hard copy to someone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hicks, and we thank you for all you do with the Roscoe Reading Program. The rest of the comments for speakers, we have a longer walk than normal tonight, so I'll tell you the lineup, for lack of a better description. First up, and you may take the podium, is Mr. Matthew Burton. Following Mr. Burton will be Miss Sophie Sorensen. Following Miss Sorensen will be Miss Rendy Ryan. Mr. Matthew Burton, you may take the podium. Mr. Burton, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, sir. I am? All right, thank you. Mr. Burton would like to comment on the Beresford Creek Landing zoning. Mr. Burton, the podium is yours.
Thank you, Chairman and the board here. Appreciate your time. I am a resident of Beresford Creek Landing off of Thomas Ferry Road. We enjoy the wonderful education of Daniel Island and have been annexed in for over 6 years. I know that many other neighborhoods off of Thomas Ferry Road have this education as well, and we all would like to continue it. With that said, there are intentions by some people to have Daniel Island annexed out of the county. And I would like to know the board's opinion if you're going to accept, deny, or have any kind of negotiations in work with Daniel Island, with Charleston County, or any of the politicians that are working this. As I would like to continue this wonderful education that my children have. And with the annex, if it does happen, what are your plans to support the Clements Ferry students in all neighborhoods?
Thank you, Mr. Burton. Just to explain the purpose of tonight's comment section, we do not use this time to respond to questions. This is your opportunity to make a statement to you. We will get back to you. We do have, if you're yielding your time, I can ask the superintendent to speak a little bit about the upcoming meeting.
I would like that.
Okay.
Yeah, why don't we wait on the other comments and I'll address everybody at the same time.
That's the correct decision. Mr. Burton, if you would be patient, we'll after all folks have commented, we'll be able to speak a little bit about the meeting, which I think was announced the day before yesterday.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for being here tonight, Mr. Burton. Next up is Ms. Sophie Sorensen. Ms. Sorensen would like to comment on the location of the new school in the Cainhoy-Daniel Island area. Welcome, Ms. Sorensen. The podium is yours.
All right. Thank you for your time, board members. So my name is Sophie
Thank you, Ms. Sorensen. We appreciate you being with us this evening. Next up is Ms. Rendy Ryan. Ms. Ryan would like to comment on Daniel Island Schools. Ms. Ryan?
Good evening. Is this on?
It is.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you all again for having me here and scheduling our community meeting to provide input for the future of K through 8 and 9 through 12 education for all Daniel Island students. We look forward to the opportunity to hear from you all and also to have you all hear from us. As you surely know, we also look forward to hearing from the Daniel Island Neighborhood Association and the Daniel Island Property Owners Association to hear what our options may be should Daniel Island decide that Charleston County may be a better fit for our community's needs. Let me take a moment to get a little bit personal here as far as I'm concerned. There's been a lot of emotion that's been going on these last several weeks since first I appeared before you all. I'd like to first say that I am deeply saddened by the way that a community and a school and its teachers have been left to question each other, to point fingers at each other, and use negative labels to single out who us and them are. I am angered that the deception that was pervasive in the Yes for Schools campaign was never corrected or redirected by my school board. I feel that it was your fiduciary duty to the voters of Berkeley County to correct any misrepresentation of the campaign's goals. Those misrepresentations have left a community and its school board arguing over what we really voted for. Every voter knew exactly what they went to the ballot box and voted for, but the deceit behind the campaign has left us at odds. I am inspired by how our community has come together with a common goal, how neighbors have become friends, and how people have become advocates for not only their own wishes, but for the common good of our community. I am hopeful that what you all have to offer us will be enough to override the votes of those who are now involved in this debate, who will care more about their wallets and the comparison of tax rates than their neighborhood school. And I am so very happy tonight to see new faces here that care so much about our Daniel Island School. Thanks to those of you who came tonight to show our board how important their next step in this process truly is.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. We appreciate all of your comments this evening, and we will move on now to agenda
Dr.
item.
Murray.
Yes, I'm sorry, who has a comment?
Can I make a comment?
Mr. Obey or Dr. Thompson? Mr. Obey, you have the floor.
I just want to respond to the folks on Daniel Island. I've received a lot of the emails and heard a lot of the things in the paper. And Daniel Island is important not only to the school district but to the county as a whole. We enjoy the folks on Daniel Island and what they bring to the county, and we don't want to lose them. That's the first goal, I think, is we want to aim not to lose those folks. As far as what was described in the campaign, as far as I was understood as a board member in the campaign, we had a circular radius on where a school needed to be out there. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend any of the Daniel Island meetings, and if you were promised something else, then we need to uphold that promise as a school district, that if we said we were going to put a school on the island or keep K through 8 on the island, we need to, because Daniel Island, again, is important to the school district and to the county. So I hope we can move forward as a district, a school board, and a community to fulfill those needs and to keep Daniel Island in the county and to keep that community school a community school.
Thank you, Mr. Obey. Dr. Thompson, did you ask for the floor?
I did. I was going to respond to the first speaker. Just as Ms. Ryan did allude to, we do have community member meetings scheduled for September the 30th, 5:30 at Daniel Island School and 7:30 at Cainhoy Elementary Middle School. During those meetings, we will lay out some potential options for Daniel Island and the surrounding areas for location of school sites. During that meeting, we will also lay out the process that the district and school board will use to move forward in selecting that school site. So we look forward to seeking input from all of our stakeholders as we carefully look to select the most appropriate site for a school for Daniel Island and the surrounding areas. As to the comment about the annexation, at this time, the first priority for us is for our students and employees that are currently Berkeley County schools, and we value those students and staff members very much, and we would hate to see them leave. But what annexation would mean to that school, depending on where the line is, I don't have an answer to that at this time. Hopefully more September the 30th. I'll have some more information to shed some light on that, but I cannot appropriately answer that question at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Mr. Cooper, you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, I also am quite troubled with how all the emotions have taken off on this issue, essentially as they have on other issues directed at the district over the summer and that type of thing, with basically a front page announcement about a meeting about annexation is turned into a flurry, and there's not even any facts as to where would the line be drawn yet. The other thing I would like to say is, in the research that we have done and proliferated across the state, is that the annexation and the schools are two different things. Just because you get annexed doesn't mean you get the schools. School districts are tied to the state, not the county. The only thing it's going to impact is the county millage rate and levy, not your school district levy. That would still be paid to Berkeley County. There's numerous school districts across this state. Lexington 5 is a good example. Called Lexington 5, but more than half of their children come from Richland County. Okay? Half of their board members are from Richland County. So Anderson, same thing. Anderson's got part of the western part of Greenville County. So just because there's annexation going on does not mean the schools will go forward. That's going to be a 2 to 3 year process at best. I've lived on Daniel Island for 14 years. I was there the first time this was tried. I know what's going to go through, and I know what's going to take to do it. It will be a long, hard process if it's successful. But it does not impact Berkeley County schools serving that area. It is two separate issues. And all I'm hearing is the emotion of, well, we'll take our school and go to Charleston County. We'll take our school and go here. It's a separate issue, folks. And I think if we keep it separate and we don't get tied to the emotions and we do work together, that we will come up with what's important. And what's important is what's best for our kids. Okay, we passed a bond referendum to get a high school and other schools across this county because our kids need them. And there's going to be a lot of issues involved. Not everybody's going to be happy, but what we have to do is come together and find out collaboratively, give and take on what's going to be the best thing for the kids. Not who's on island, not who's off island, not who's 8th grade, not who's 3rd grade. What's best for the kids overall in that area, and also the taxpayers. We have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure we're spending the money appropriately, and schools are being built in safe areas. We do get hurricanes around here, and we do have to stabilize land. So please, please, please separate the issues of annexation and the Berkeley County School District, because that's just going to put more emotion and more problems inside the issue. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry for being so.
Mr. Cooper, you have earned the right to speak, and I certainly commend you for the leadership that you have shown in bringing 2 schools to the Cane-Hoy-Daniel Island area, as well as Mr. Wright and all of our hardworking school district officials. So, Mr. Cooper, you have earned the right to speak as long as you need. Ms. Schwabe, you have the floor.
I too want to thank the parents for coming and speaking up for your children. We don't ever hear from enough parents, and I think it's important that we always are mindful for what those needs are. I too am receiving a lot of information, as Mr. Obie mentioned, and right now I would say it's about 50-50. I think I'm still not hearing from parents in the Cane-Hoy area who've been affected specifically with the high school, and the fact that we've had children, and right now, according to the district's numbers, about 170 or so who are still riding anywhere from 80 minutes to an hour in the morning to get to school, and as long as 2 hours in the afternoon to get home. And it would be a wonderful world if this board could be so narrow as to think about one area of Berkeley County, or that we could be as short-sighted to worry about who wants to secede and go to another county. I think if I could talk to some of these parents and explain to them my view, and as I watch all of this unfold and how many political animals want to get involved in your lives and your children, I would just beg you to slow down and think about the possibility that you could be used right now by people who really don't care about your children at all. This board has always listened, and it will continue to. I hope parents will continue to write to me, and I hope I hear from even more of them. And I hope we can get more of them at every meeting until decisions are made. Because you are important, and you're, quite frankly, you and your children are the reason we exist. I'm proud of how all of the board members have been handling this, and know that we're going to continue to stay on a high road regardless of how far and how low other people want to go. We're responsible for other people's children. And if you don't believe that, then you do need to come to every single one of these meetings, and you need to listen to all of the proceedings that go on. Not just about buses or attendance lines or any of that, but everything from A to Z. And we take it seriously. So thank you for being here, and continue to talk to us, because we need to hear from as many people and as many different voices as possible. Thank you. Thank you,
Ms. Schwabe.
Mr.
Mr.
Chair,
Marino, you
I'd like
have
to
the
make
floor.
a comment. Thank you. Just two comments. First of all, I am a new board member, so I really cannot comment on what was said or what wasn't said or what was promised or what was not promised. But I will tell you that Daniel Island and Daniel Island students are very, very important to Berkeley County, and I definitely don't want to see them go anywhere. The other thing is, there's a lot of talk about a community school, and I think I don't speak out of turn whenever I say that all of the board members would love to have every school and every school to be a community school. It'd be nice to have every child ride a bike or take a golf cart to school, but just given the county size, that's just not that's not going to happen. But whenever we make decisions, we don't make decisions just on Daniel Island. We have to think about Moncks Corner, Goose Creek, Hanahan, all the different surrounding areas. And so if there is an opportunity for us to create a community school or leave a community school, then I firmly believe that that's exactly what we're going to do. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Marino. Hearing no further comments, we will proceed through the agenda. If everyone would please look at agenda item number 7, entitled Administration and Facilities. Mr. Francini, the floor is yours, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Thompson, members of the board. This evening I want to talk to you a little bit about the selection of the architects for the following bond equipment project. A new high school for the King Hoy Daniel Island area, the Cross High School Auditorium, Media Center, and locker room renovations, as well as the Marietta Middle School of the Arts multipurpose room addition and the renovations to the current multipurpose room. And 3, a new elementary school in Foxbank Plantation. The selection committee consisted of board members Ms. Catherine Schwabe and Mr. Doug Cooper. Also participating on the committee were Mr. Dion Jackson, principal of Cane Bay Middle School, Mr. Jim Spencer, principal of Marietta Middle School of the Arts, Dr. Kim McLaren, director of secondary schools, Ms. Connie Myers, capital projects, Mr. James Thomas, facilities, and myself. In addition, we had technical assistance from Ms. Jackie Carlin and Ms. Marcy Abrahamson from the finance department. For the high school project, the school district received 17 proposals. It was a very difficult decision since there were so many talented firms with recent experience in designing high schools in South Carolina from which to choose. The selection committee reviewed the many proposals and created a short list of 3 firms to interview. The interviews of the short list of firms were conducted, and each firm was ranked individually by committee members. For Cross High School and Marietta Middle School of the Arts, we received 15 proposals from a variety of firms. Once Again, we were surprised at the high number of quality firms with experience in designing auditoriums, media centers, and multi-purpose rooms, which again made our decision very difficult. The committee also interviewed 3 firms for that project, which we combined as far as one architectural firm designing the renovations to Cross High School and the renovations in addition to Marietta Hicks School of the Arts. For Fox Bank Elementary, Fox Bank Plantation, the school in Fox Bank Plantation, we received 16 proposals. And this project will be completed in 2 phases. It will be an early phase package, which will be some site work that need to be done. And also we need to be closely coordinated with the town of Moncks Corner, which will be building a fire station adjacent to the site. 3 firms were interviewed and they were ranked. Mr. Chairman, and members of the board, it's my honor as the chairman of the Architect Selection Committee to recommend the following architectural firms for your approval this evening. The firm of Macmillan, Pazdan Smith for the new high school in the Independence Ferry Road, Canehoy area, and to also do the new elementary school at Fox Bank Plantation. And 2 is the firm of Stubbs, Muldrow, Aaron, architects for the Cross High School renovations and the Marrington Middle School of the Arts addition and renovations. That's the committee's recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Francini. Do I have a motion and a second for agenda items 7A, B, and C?
Mr. Chairman, you do. I move that we approve the recommendation of the Architect Selection Committee to name Macmillan, Pazdan Smith as the architect for Clements Ferry Road, Canehoy Area High School, and the new elementary school in Fox Bank Plantation, and the firm of Stubbs, Muldrow, Hearn, architects for Cross High renovations and Marrington Middle School of the Arts addition and renovations.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Schwabe has made a motion. Mr. Cooper has seconded that motion. Prior to calling the question and leading to discussion, I'll state the motion for complete understanding. A motion has been made to approve the recommendation of the Architect Selection Committee to name Macmillan Pazdan Smith as the architect for the Clements Ferry Road, Canehoy Area High School and the new elementary school in Fox Bank Plantation, and the firm of Stubbs, Muldrow, and Hearn architects for the Cross High School renovations and the Marrington Middle School of the Arts addition and renovations. Do I have any discussion regarding the motion?
I have a question.
Mr. Obey, you have the floor. Ms. Moore, I will return to you next. Mr. Obey, you have the floor.
The Fox Bank Elementary, have we decided for sure that's going to be an elementary school? And then all those kids are going to then go to Berkeley Middle School, is that correct?
Those attendance lines have not been established yet, and also we've not made a final decision as to whether or not it would be an elementary school. At this point, that's what it looks like it may be. But we're several years out as far as actually building that school, and so that could change.
Okay, that's I didn't remember us deciding whether or not it's going to be elementary or middle. Okay.
And more than likely that would be into the most smaller school.
Right, which is already overcrowded, I think. And we have, what, 1,100 kids at a middle school in Moncks Corner?
Mr. Obey, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Could you repeat that clearly?
Berkeley Middle School in Moncks Corner is already at 1,100 kids, and we talk about that it's a lot of students to be in a middle school, and if we're going to add another elementary school to feed into that school, I imagine at elementary school you're going to have anywhere between 400 to 700 students. So that'd be another, group of cohorts going to that school would overcrowd that school for sure. So I just want to make sure that we look at this. But if we haven't fully decided on whether or not it's an elementary or middle school, then that's good. Okay.
Actually, Mr. Cooper, I have to yield to Ms. Moore. I'll come back to you. Ms. Moore, the floor is yours.
Yes, my question. The Canehoy Daniel Island High School, is that the first on the list? I notice you have it listed A, B, and C. They're on the bottom, but is the bottom project going to be first? Is that? That's my question.
You've grouped the schools together on the agenda. Ms. Moore is trying to get an indication of the chronological order of the construction of the schools.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yes, I asked that question, yeah.
That doesn't mean that it's the last school to be built. No, that's not
Well, I asked that question. I didn't say anything in relation to the discussion that you had earlier. However, seems to me, and it was discussed, that the Canehoy Daniel Island schools should be one of the first ones taking into consideration the hard struggle that those children are still having to be served. So that's why I ask you. So I hope you'd consider that.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Moore, we're going to start on that school right away. Just to build a high school, it takes a little more time to build a high school than it does an elementary school, but we actually have already started on some preliminary work on that site, and I think the scheduled opening date at this time, Ms. Myers, August 2017.
The one, the King Hawaii?
Yes, ma'am. We're going to build it as fast as we possibly can.
I appreciate that.
Mr. Cooper, I'll come back to you, Doc.
I just wanted to offer a point of clarification to Mr. Obie's comments or question. One of the things with that Fox Bank school is it is the last. If you look at our schedule, how far out it is. We needed, though, to issue a contract for the architect because we have to do a site design, site plan, and get it in there so that then the city or whoever's going to build the fire department builds it around our plan. We have to have our plan first. So once we get the plan done of how the school's going to sit, they'll build the fire department, and then we'll come back at some later date per our building schedule and basically reopen and re-engage the contractor and the architect to do that. It's mainly so that the fire department doesn't get built right in the middle where we need to have land later.
Thank you. Does that conclude your comments, Mr. Cooper?
Yep.
Yes, sir. Dr. Etheridge?
Mr. Francini, just a question of curiosity. Are either one of these architectural firms Low Country firms or South Carolina firms? Do you have that information?
They are both South Carolina firms. The McMillan firm, their headquarters is in Greenville, but they do have a local office. And the Stubbs firm, they are out of Mount Pleasant.
Mount Pleasant. Thank you.
Any further questions or discussion from the board? Hearing no discussion, we'll call the question. A motion has been made by Ms. Schwabe. That motion has been seconded by Mr. Cooper. That motion reads, excuse me, a motion has been made to approve the recommendation of the Architect Selection Committee to name McMillan Pasdan Smith as the architect for the Clements Ferry Road Cainhoy Area High School and the new elementary school in Fox Bank Plantation, and the firm of Stubbs Muldrew Hearn Architects for the Cross High renovations and the Marrington Middle School of the Arts addition and renovations. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. The motion carries unanimously. The motion is approved. Thank you, Mr. Francini. Dr. O'Gorman, instruction and accountability, as you approach the podium, I want to congratulate all of the areas who just received approval for their architects. But I have to say a very special congratulations, although it is somewhat bittersweet. As a member of the Hanahan community, I congratulate the children of Cainhoy. They have had so much sacrifice over the many years driving across that bridge to our community. I say that it's bittersweet because I don't want you to go. But I think you deserve your own school, and I think you need to have a school closer to home. So it is with great pride that I congratulate all members of the Cainhoy community on this much-needed decision. Thank you for that point of privilege. Dr. O'Gorman, the podium is yours.
Sir, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Thompson, ladies and gentlemen, I want to cover our proficiency-based learning system for Burton County School District.
It's in your packet.
New for 2013-14, we've had to submit an application to the State Department for our proficiency-based courses. I want to point out we have had proficiency-based courses in the past. They've been here for a while, but the state has changed how we get course approval for that. And so I'm actually required to cover this material with you during the school year. Real quick to define what a proficiency-based system is. Essentially, it's a course designed where students can demonstrate the mastery of coursework. And the key down here is that the 120 hours of seat time can be waived as students demonstrate they have mastered the course before that. This is straight off the State Department's webpage. This is actually something they had up last year. Real quick, I want to talk about the timeline for this process, when we learned about this. So in May 15th of the past school year, we were told there was a new process. We were told that applications were due July 15th, and that everybody in the state received their response on August 7th of whether or not their application was approved. Just want to point out that this created a challenge for us in terms of planning and training and getting courses aligned and the software ready to go, because we were sort of on hold until we heard from the state that we were ready to go. And actually the courseware that we use, which I'll talk about in a minute, we adopted K through 12. So it's not just a initial credit or credit recovery thing. So a lot of our teachers, principals have been waiting anxiously to get this up and running. It was delayed for, I think, about 10 days, but it is up and running now. But those folks have been very patient, have worked well and very professional through this process, and have done a great job. We've thrown a few curveballs at them with new curriculum and this, so it's been an awkward start to the school year, but things are looking great so far as I've been out in the schools recently. All right, so when we received our approval on the 7th, we received some guidelines that we had not received from the state prior, and I've highlighted some of this. Teachers had to be appropriately certified to teach those courses. That is not necessarily new. However, sometimes students would take their instructional courses in a computer lab, and although they might have a teacher working with them, there was a lab proctor in the lab supervising what they were doing while in the lab. Now they're saying a certified teacher has to be in the lab with them as they're working through some of this coursework. The rest of it is kind of just minutia. Teachers have to have direct contact with the students and meet all state statutes and regulations. Okay, so if you've gotten a copy of the application in your packet, I believe it's the second page there at the top. It's got district assurances, what I have to cover with you tonight. I'm not going to go over all of it. So an explanation of the needs assessment, I'll touch on that. But all the things with asterisks on them are actually in the application, and you can read that for yourselves. I don't want to have to read to you tonight. But I am going to go through the main points here so that you do have an overview of what this application says. First of all, the three providers for initial credit and credit recovery at the high school where students are receiving Carnegie units are the South Carolina Virtual School, Apex, and a program we call A+. A company called K-12 is actually the host for A+. I want to point out that all three of these folks have advanced ed accreditation. That is the same accreditation that we have at the school district to provide Carnegie units. So independent of Berkeley County, these folks can actually award credit. They don't, they can do that on their own. Some of them have their own schools and can actually do that. That was very important to us. I'm going to click it over. We had to provide with you a description of the subject area course procedure for each high school. You've got in your packets there an outline, some guidelines for how courses are chosen, the process by which students are placed into A+ or Apex or the virtual school. So that is outlined in your packet. You can go through it and look at that. And then a complete syllabus for each course, including instructional methodologies. Real quick, we had curriculum committees that actually went through A+. Now, A+ is the one that we host on site. So we've got control over what students actually access on site. And we aligned every bit of those courses with our current syllabus, so that they mirror what is being taught in the classroom. Students have to go through the same standard sequence and that kind of stuff. In addition to that, the instructional methodologies, it's an online software program that is described in those guidelines as well. There is a program of study link here. Ms. Calcutta, if you can just click on the Explore button there. This is on our district website. You can scroll through that, Ms. Calcutta, just so they can see a little bit more of it. But our programs of study, this outlines for the district, sort of our sequence of courses, how they flow together. Just right there, just back up a little bit. This is just sort of a menu for what is provided here. But I encourage you, if you've not done it before, to go through this particular document, and you can see how our pathways are lined and what courses we offer and things of that. I just want to reiterate, if a student is taking A+ or Apex or a virtual class, they follow our same program of study. There's no difference, and we've taken efforts to make sure of that. Okay, if you can go back to the, if you can go to the actual Firefox, thank you. All right, so what I've done is I'm just going to zoom in. You've got the application in front of you. I'm going to zoom in on parts of it through this Prezi. I know this is going to be hard to read. All right, so I've covered with you on the first or second slide there. This is what you need to be, the information you need to be provided with as a board about the proficiency-based system. So this is the actual application, and again, you can read most of this yourself. But this kind of outlines our needs assessment. I want to point out one of the challenges that we have in Berkeley County for initial credit or credit recovery is specific to our block schedule when students come into our district that came from a traditional schedule or an AD schedule. So we might have a student transfer in October that started in a traditional schedule somewhere else, and we've got to figure out how to catch them up or we don't lose credits for them. So we can put them in an online course and let them work at their own pace so that they can then get in step with us in Berkeley County. This shows how many students we had transfer in midterm. And of course, we got the term for semester 1 and semester 2. And the blue is semester 1, the red is semester 2. And you see over the last 3 years, we have quite a few students that transfer in where we have this challenge. So again, this really provides us a way to help keep those students on track for graduating on time. So this talks about the goals of the system. Why are we doing it? I'm sure, as you all know, as students come in and out of schools, our challenge is to make sure that they graduate on time, that when a student transfers, we don't want them to miss credit. If they did not pass a course during the school year or during the semester, we want to provide them with as many opportunities as possible to recover that credit. So this talks about how, when, and where. Students can go before school, during school, after school. We obviously have our evening high school where students can take these courses online. Should also point out that we have students that might be medically homebound. We can provide courses to them through this process as well. So how will this be evaluated? As you probably recall, we had an outside evaluator come in and evaluate all of our instructional programs last year. As we were writing the application, we got in touch with her and asked her to provide us with a methodology for evaluating this program, and so that's included in the packet as well. Hopefully with our ThinkGate system, we can flag every student that has taken a course through an online environment for initial credit or credit recovery and find out how they're doing 2 years out and 3 years out. Did it actually work? Did it keep them on pace and things of that nature? And if they took an Algebra 1 course, are they being successful in subsequent math courses after that? We want to make sure that we are covering all our bases there. And I just kind of mentioned that as well. How are we going to trace these students after they are gone? So again, the ThinkGate, we should be able to flag all students that go through the system and keep up with them. Now, in addition to this, I think the only thing we have left in that presentation is questions. On the very back, I know that some of you may be interested in seeing what the program actually looks like. So you got something that looks like this in your packet. It says A+. We've actually set up a username and password specifically for youth. So where this says Davis Robert as the logon name, you would use your name with no space there, and then your specific district would be your password. So you can actually, this gives you directions on where to go on the website, how to log in, and you can actually go through it and look at the coursework. If you have any trouble logging in and looking at that, just let me know and we'll keep you straight. But that way you've got access to everything through A+ that you may ever and more want to see in that program. This time I'll be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Dr. O'Gorman. Does the board have any questions or comments for Dr. O'Gorman? Mr. Cooper, you're recognized. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Just one question. In the area and it continues to be an area of concern for me every year. On the area of virtual schools and access to virtual schools, has the state done anything to free up availability to students different? Because we talk about credit recovery, graduation rates on time, and all that other stuff. We have kids, not a lot of them, but they get in trouble. They get caught up in something at school. They get expelled. Most of them, in a short period of time, want to come back and try to stay on track with their peers. But they're not allowed to even go to virtual school, which to me just is totally confounding, because that's one of the reasons I thought we had it. Has the state done any more movement this year to try and open that up under these new systems with measurement and everything else to help those students out?
I think they heard a lot of feedback from across the state about just that. And at the end of last year, they said they were going to open their doors and make more seats available for students, especially for credit recovery. In fact, they said they would not turn any student down for credit recovery if they tried to enroll this year. Now, I've not heard anybody that's been denied yet. But
before they use legal definition of any student as being one that was currently enrolled in Berkeley County, so that was.
But what we hope to do as a system is set up a virtual environment to alleviate some of just that. So we can have students taking courses as they need to in an environment that's appropriate.
It's a great tool. We just need to use it. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Cooper, any other? Dr. Etheridge?
Just a couple of quick questions. One, by nature of the course, credit recovery, they're not allowed to take this as their initial introduction to the course. They have to have not been successful in it before or transfer in with not enough seat time available. Is that correct?
For credit recovery.
For credit recovery.
For initial credit, they can take a course like this whenever they're ready to start. Typically that's where student transferring in, like I said, a student transferred in mid-October, and they were passing that course in Lexington 5, for example. I would consider it initial credit for them to sign up and take that course, because they didn't fail it, so they're not, you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
And also, if we have a student who, say, they want to take 2 AP courses, but their schedule doesn't allow them to take one of the AP courses, but they could take initial credit for AP courses, we might would allow that. That's up to the principal's discretion.
Okay, well, that leads me into my next question then. How successful are you in ensuring that the teachers of these classes are highly qualified?
We are working through that process now. Again, we've got new guidelines for that. But I'll say this, the APEX courses, we can provide a highly qualified teacher through APEX if we so choose, if it's a challenge to find a time to do that. But we will assign a highly qualified teacher to any student taking this for initial credit. And I don't want you to think that we've got hundreds of kids taking an online course for initial credit. It's really a rare thing that we would do that. Mostly this is for credit recovery.
Oh, you're good. That leads into my last question.
Set me up, aren't you?
Do you know the enrollment counts or approximate enrollment counts for a full year in Berkeley County? And if so, what percentage of those students are successful in gaining credit?
I don't know. Some of that information is in the application. And I know we looked at those numbers when we wrote the application last year. I don't have them memorized, but I can get you that information.
I noticed on the transfers you indicated 120 for first semester and 140 for second. But those numbers would not include our own Berkeley County students, correct? Full-time, continuous students.
Right. Those were students that transferred in from other districts.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Etheridge. Ms. Lee, the floor is yours.
For the students that aren't able to go into our schools, if they were medically delicate, are they able to access this from home, from their home computer with a login, or do they have to come to school, to a school building?
We are working through both of them. We have opened this to home access. In fact, we had a student this summer. We did a pilot with the South Carolina Virtual School through K-12, and he did homeschool over the summer, and it worked out well for him. Actually, they have a highly qualified teacher on their end do instruction online virtually, and it worked beautifully. But we've actually been working with Kelly Wolf and some of that. So that's what we want to do, is make sure we provide that access at home.
Excellent, thank you.
All right. I think there's more.
Yes. Is there a tuition fee for the course?
No, ma'am.
The county pays for?
Right, during the school year, the county pays for that. They go to summer school,
There is a fee if they take the course as part of summer school, but not during the during the school year.
Thank you.
And I just want to clarify, we are able to open the accounts up at home for students to work through the curriculum, just not, they can't get to the assessments from home. They have to come into our buildings for the assessments. Is that correct?
correct. For accountability purposes, we would want them to take the assessment in the presence of a teacher.
I'd like to make just a quick comment regarding our teachers. Having been married to one since 1989, she left the house at 6:45 this morning, and she returned at 5:05. There's a lot of anxiety with these new programs. We continue to pile more and more on our teachers. So I would ask you, Dr. O'Gorman, as we do this very important change in curriculum, let's not forget the emotional and motivational needs of the most important people in this district, and that's our classroom teachers. Are you working to ensure that those needs are met?
We, Ms. Calcutt and I can't tell you off the top of my head how many schools we've been in the past couple of weeks. You know, since the first week of school, that is our, we want to be present out in the schools as much as possible. We were in 3 schools today. I'm scheduled to be in 2 schools tomorrow. Talking to teachers, talking to principals, asking them questions. How's it going? What does it look like? What are your struggles? What's driving you crazy? And also, what's working? So, and it's interesting because some teachers see what the curriculum units as very much a help. Some, it stresses them out. So it's trying to figure out why does this teacher feel really good about this and this one feels really challenged about that. We're starting to narrow that down, and we've opened multiple venues for feedback from them. We want that feedback, and I think we've said from the beginning, this isn't a perfect product, and it won't be tomorrow. It's a continuous process, and we need the expertise of our teachers to give us feedback so that it does become a perfect product for them and a resource to help them.
I appreciate that response, and again, I would encourage you to keep that in mind. That's very important. When Mama's not happy, at my house, nobody's happy. Thank you, Dr. O'Gorman. Any other comments or questions? Not hearing any. Dr. O'Gorman, thank you. We'll move on to agenda item number 9. Dr. Thompson, the Superintendent's Report.
Thank you, Dr. Murray, members of the board, our stakeholders in the audience. Good evening. A couple of items tonight. First of all, I'd like to thank our host tonight, Sangaree Middle. Ms. Day, you and your staff for creating an outstanding learning environment for our students. The building looks fantastic, and great things going on here at Sangaree Middle. Also, I'd like to thank our technology department and maintenance department for making our board meeting mobile tonight. I know this just didn't happen, and thank you guys for your efforts getting this room set up for our meeting tonight. While I'm recognizing folks, I'd like to recognize our technology department also. Over the past couple of weeks, they have prepared and delivered over 2,400 mobile computing devices prior to the start of school. Our technology department is very talented and dedicated to our students and our county. And if you see Diane Driggers or members of the technology staff, please tell them thank you for their efforts for making our school district helping us do outstanding things through our technology. Also like to recognize some students we have in the crowd tonight. We have a group of students from Cross High School from the senior government class. I think this is a class project that they have to attend the board meeting, so welcome to our meeting. Thank you guys. Also, we have a guest in our audience. Tim Knight has been selected for the new district safety officer. Tim is a sergeant with the Dorchester County Sheriff's Office. He has a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice and been with law enforcement for more than 10 years. So we welcome Tim to our staff, and we look forward to his input as we continue to make our students safe, our schools safe for our students and staff. Welcome, Tim.
All right, that concludes the superintendent's report. Now we'll move on to agenda item number 10, entitled Executive Session. Tonight's executive session is for the purpose of hearing student attendance appeals, a student expulsion appeal, personnel considerations, contractual matters, and legal briefing. Do I have a motion and a second to move into executive session?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. The motion has been made by Dr. Etheridge, seconded by Ms. Lee. All those in favor of moving into executive session, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. We are now moving into executive session.